Hippo in Free State. In 2005, a South African army major and farmer named Marius Els rescued a 5-month-old hippopotamus calf from a flood on the Vaal River. He named the animal Humphrey. He brought it to his 400-acre farm in Free State Province and raised it as his own. For 6 years, Els rode Humphrey on his back. He hand-fed him apples. He told anyone who would listen that the animal was like a son to him. "I trust him with my heart that he will not harm anybody," he said. Friends and neighbors had a different view. Humphrey had killed calves belonging to Els's business partner. He had broken out of his enclosure and chased golfers off a nearby course. On one occasion, a 52-year-old man and a 7-year-old boy had to climb into a tree and wait for 2 hours while the animal circled below. Elsa's wife, Louise, had expressed her concerns repeatedly. Els dismissed every warning. On November 12, 2011, Marius Els was found dead in the Vaal River. Netcare 911 spokesman Jeffrey Wicks confirmed that paramedics responded to find the man had been bitten multiple times by the animal. He had also been submerged in the water for an unknown length of time. The location was the same river from which Els had rescued the calf 6 years earlier. There were no witnesses to the attack itself. No one saw how it began. What investigators found was a 40-year-old man in the water, with the marks of his pet's teeth across his body. Marius Els was confirmed dead at the scene. Bear in the cage. Kellyanne Waltz had kept her black bear, Teddy, for 9 years. She raised him from a cub at her home in Ross Township, Pennsylvania, about 30 miles northeast of Allentown. Their property also housed a mountain lion and a tiger. On the evening of October 4th, 2009, Waltz entered Teddy's cage to clean it. The enclosure was 15 feet by 15 feet, steel and concrete. Her routine was always the same. She would throw a shovel full of dog food to one end of the cage to distract the bear while she cleaned the other. She had done it that way hundreds of times. Her neighbor Scott Castone, a school teacher, described it simply. "She's done it 1,000 times," he said, "and on 1,001, something happened. The 350-pound bear turned on her." Her 2 young children and the children from the neighboring house witnessed the attack from roughly a football field away. They ran for help. By the time Castone arrived with a handgun, the bear was on top of walls. As Castone approached, the animal climbed off her and moved toward him. Castone fired and killed it. "I did what anyone would do," he said. It was pretty much self-defense. Kellyanne Waltz was pronounced dead at the scene. Python in the crib. In the early morning hours of July 1st, 2009, the family's pet Burmese python named Gypsy escaped from its enclosure in a house in Oxford, Florida, and slithered into the bedroom where 2-year-old Shayona Hare was sleeping. The aquarium was secured by a safety-pinned quilt. No proper lid. The snake had already escaped from its container multiple times in the weeks before. Gypsy was 8 feet and 6 inches long. She was malnourished. A snake expert testified at trial that she had not been fed in over a month and weighed 13.5 pounds. A python of her age and size should have weighed approximately 140 pounds. A starving 8-foot constrictor found a sleeping 2-year-old child in a crib. Charles Jason Darnell, the mother's boyfriend and the snake's caretaker, discovered Gypsy was missing from her tank. He went to the child's room and found the snake on the girl with bite marks on her head. He stabbed the snake repeatedly until he could pull it free. Shayona Hare was already dead. The autopsy confirmed cause of death as asphyxiation. Both Jaron Hare, the child's 21-year-old mother, and Darnell, 34, were convicted of third-degree murder, manslaughter, and child neglect. Each was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Prosecutor Pete Magrino stated in court that the death was totally preventable. Bird breeder Alachua. On the morning of April 12, 2019, 75-year-old Marvin Hodgos was working on his farm in Alachua, Florida, northwest of Gainesville. He bred cassowary birds, enormous flightless animals native to Australia and New Guinea that the San Diego Zoo calls the most dangerous bird in the world. Cassowaries stand over 6 feet tall. They weigh up to 130 pounds. Each foot carries a 4-inch dagger-like claw capable of severing arteries with a single kick. Hayos fell near a fenced area where one of the birds was kept. The cassowary attacked him. At approximately 10 a.m., Hayos called 911 himself. His voice was weak. He gave his address to the dispatcher and said, "Would you send an ambulance, please?" An employee at the scene had no doubt about what had happened. He told the dispatcher, "I'm sure he got kicked by the cassowary." Paramedics treated Hodgos at the scene for 12 minutes before transport to UF Health Shands Hospital. In the ambulance, his pulse briefly surged as responders applied chest compressions. 5 minutes before arrival, it stopped. It restarted briefly at the hospital. He died shortly after. The autopsy confirmed more than a dozen lacerations across his face, neck, back, abdomen, thighs, legs, and right arm. His brachial artery, the major blood vessel of the upper arm, had been severed. Death investigator Bill Grotjan confirmed it was an accidental death, most likely from injuries sustained from the bird. This had nothing to do with his heart conditions. Per his last wishes, the bird was sold at auction. Hogs on the farm. On the morning of September 26, 2012, 69-year-old Terry Vance Garner left the house near Riverton, Oregon, to feed his hogs. He went out at approximately 7:30 in the morning. He did not come back. Several hours later, a family member went looking for him. What the relative found in the hog enclosure stopped the search. His dentures were on the ground. Nearby were his hat, his pocket knife, his cigarettes, and scattered pieces of his body. Most of his remains had been consumed. Several of his hogs weighed 700 pounds. Coos County District Attorney Paul Frazier confirmed the discovery to reporters. "For all we know, it was a horrific accident," Frazier said. "But it's so doggone weird that we have to look at all possibilities." A forensic pathologist examined what remained. It was not enough. The pathologist could not determine the cause or manner of death. The remains were transferred to a forensic anthropologist at the University of Oregon. Investigators noted two possibilities. Garner may have suffered a medical event such as a heart attack and collapsed in the enclosure, or the animals may have knocked him down. One of the large sows had bitten him the previous year when he accidentally stepped on a piglet. His brother said Garner had chosen not to kill the animal. The official cause of death was listed as undetermined. Terry Vance Garner, a Vietnam War veteran, was confirmed dead. What exactly happened in that enclosure on the morning of September 26, 2012, was never established. Birthday Camel, Australia. For her 60th birthday in 2007, Pam Weaver's husband Noel gave her a camel. The family raised sheep and cattle on their property near Mitchell, Queensland, Australia. The camel was young, only 10 months old, Guyana hand-reared. It weighed approximately 330 pounds. Less than 12 months later, Pam Weaver was dead. Her daughter and husband found her in the paddock. The camel had knocked her to the ground and laid on top of her. She had a footprint on the side of her face, another on her arm. Detective Senior Constable Craig Gregory was among the first to the scene. "I'd say it's probably been playing," he said, "or it may even be a sexual sort of thing." Camel expert Patty McHugh agreed with that assessment. "What happened is certainly characteristic of a bull in season," he said. The behavior had been building. In the weeks before the attack, the camel had repeatedly knocked over and straddled the family's pet goat. It had been chased off the animal multiple times. Police confirmed Pam Weaver died from crushing injuries caused by the animal. Investigators were awaiting a full autopsy at the time of their initial reports. She had been given the camel as a gift. She had raised it herself. It was less than a year old, and she had owned it for less than 12 months when it killed her. Wolfpack, Pennsylvania. Sandra Piovesan had been raising wolfdog hybrids at her home in Salem Township, Pennsylvania, for years. By 2006, she had 9 of them. They lived in an outdoor enclosure 40 feet by 150 feet in her backyard. She told her neighbor the animals gave her unqualified love. She built them a playground. She fed them roadkill. She described herself as the leader of the pack. Humane Officer Elaine Gower had visited the property multiple times and warned her repeatedly. Everybody told her this would happen, but she just wouldn't listen, Gower later told reporters. She was a very likable person, but she was just delusional about their danger and totally misguided. Gower had noted for years that the enclosure was far too small. Experts stated animals like these required 50 to 100 square miles of roaming territory. Piovesan had them in roughly 1/10 of an acre. A year before her death, the animals had turned on one of the older pack members and killed it. Piovesan had come to work with a bandaged arm after being attacked by one of the animals. She kept working with them. On July 17, 2006, her daughter found her body inside the enclosure. She had been mauled. The autopsy, performed by Dr. Cyril H. Wecht, confirmed multiple soft tissue injuries, with the most severe wounds to her scalp and legs. Sandra Piovesan, 50 years old, bled to death inside the pen with her animals. All 9 wolf dogs were tranquilized and euthanized. Tiger at Sandstone. Cynthia Lee Gamble had spent years working with tigers. She was 52 years old and operated the Center for Endangered Cats, a USDA licensed breeding facility on an 80-acre property near Sandstone, Minnesota, about 85 miles north of St. Paul. She had raised, trained, and exhibited the animals for over a decade. She had filmed wildlife documentaries and coordinated animals for major motion pictures. Her neighbors had never had a problem with the operation. The sheriff's office had no prior call history at the property. On April 6, 2006, a man who had come to the property to do a controlled burn found her body. Cynthia Gamble was dead inside an area connected to her 500-pound Bengal tiger's cage by a small open gate. The animal, named Tango, was still in the vicinity, agitated. A veterinarian tranquilized and then euthanized Tango to allow access to the body. Pine County Sheriff Mark Mancevich stated there was no doubt the tiger was responsible. The University of Minnesota veterinary examination of Tango determined the animal was severely emaciated, weighing 118 kilograms, roughly half of what a tiger his age should weigh. A trapdoor designed to separate Tango from the cleaning area had either been left open or had malfunctioned. Investigators were unable to determine which. Pine County Sheriff Mancevich described the scene at the property as one of the worst things he had ever come across. Cynthia Lee Gamble was confirmed dead on scene. 2 other Bengal tigers on the property survived. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.